Hello!
Hello, Todd.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the ArtCraft Q&A for March of 2020. War Stories. Hashtag War Stories. So if you tweet something like a video of a cool fight that you had, you post it to the Twitter or the other social medias, and you hashtag it War Stories, and you let us know. So you might want to tag Crowfall Game too, and we will make you famous. Well, famous within the small bubble that is the Crowfall universe. But eventually, it'll be a much larger bubble once this game is out.
And when people look back and they'll be like, oh wow, look at these cool little things that people used to make.
Exactly. Other things we need to talk about. First of all, about the live service. The Endarin campaign is live. It started on February 20th, and it's going to end on March 17th. Now, I will say, that is assuming that we don't go live between now and then. If we actually need, if this build is ready to go live, I'm gonna just interrupt that campaign.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, at the end of the day, I will do that. I've already said that, Debbie Sue. You should just be okay with it. Because if this build is ready, if this baby's coming, this baby's coming. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So our next version that's coming out is a big one. It's the one we've been working on now for months and months and months. It is the single largest update that we have ever done. It includes almost all of the things that that we want to have for launch. The biggest of those being the strategy game, which is a really big one.
Yep.
The city building, to where now you can actually choose what buildings are in your town, and caravanning is a part of that too. Going to quarries, mines, and mills, caravanning things back. And then lastly, it has the dregs, guild versus guild rule set as well. So this is and things like Frostweaver as well,
and our final class for launch, right?
So so this is a huge one, really big milestone, and we have been working on it forever. And literally, so I haven't given a date because I don't know the date. We walk in now, we're in that state where every morning we come in and we look and we see what the bug count is. We have testers that literally we test this game 24/7. We have some external testers internationally who check the game that we do during the day. They check it at night. And every morning when we come in, we check the bug list, and we are down to a handful of blockers. As soon as we're through with those blockers, this thing is going to go to test. And then we've got more than a handful. We've got probably a dozen or so crits. And once we're through those crits, then it's going to go live. So the challenge, of course, is it's a moving list, right? We're trying to hit a moving target. We'll get the blockers done on one day and feel like we're ready. We come in the next morning and there's two more ones, right? Or we'll close out 20 crits, come in the next day and we found 15 more. Every single day, I'd ask the question, is today the day? And at some point here, the answer is going to be yes. You ready to get to some Q&As?
Yeah, let's answer some of the questions.
Okay. The first question, why is PvE loot not individual? This is really a question of why do you allow ninja looting?
Right? Yeah.
It's just because we haven't gotten to it yet.
Actually, we have gotten to it in 5.1.10.
Oh, that's right. In the version you guys are playing, we haven't gotten to it yet.
Correct. In the new version, we will now flag God's Reach to have looting based on the highest contributor. Just whoever gets the XP gets the loot rights.
So let's pause for a second, because we use a lot of terms a lot of times that people don't know. So Crowfall, for those of you who are new, the different worlds are broken into bands, and each band has a different rule set. God's Reach is really the newbie world. That's what it's for. The newbie world is the first place you come in the game, so that when you initially come in, we can teach the game to you someplace that's safe, so you're not immediately thrown into the deep end of the pool with the sharks, where you're going to just die and die and die. We tried that actually, and it turns out that's not a great experience. So most of the content there is, first of all, is optional, right? Like, you could skip past a lot of it if you wanted to, but even if you run it out to the end, you're talking about hours of gameplay if you're not being twinked. We have a twinking mechanic. I know most games hate twinking. We don't, but we have a twinking mechanic where you can just sacrifice stuff into a brazier and get experience points. So if you've got a guild that brings you in and they want to get you up to speed,
they just give you some stuff and you can sacrifice it away.
You throw in the brazier, you immediately level up, and you can get out and into the pool with the sharks. So anyway, that's what God's Reach is. So God's Reach is the area where, because it is protected, we needed a solution to ninja looting, because, of course, in the dregs or the other PvP worlds, you have your own solution to ninja looting.
You kill the person.
You can kill the person or not.
So if someone pops up to steal your stuff, you can attack them. In the tri-faction worlds, however, this will also protect them there as well. Which is, you're on my team and you just happen to be following me and just picking up all the stuff as I kill it. You will no longer be able to do that if we set that flag on that particular world.
And then if we did a harder core tri-faction world like Shadow, we could turn that off.
It's a server config.
This is a promise. If you go back and look at the original Kickstarter, this was the promise of our game. It's, hey, let's build an MMO where every server has a whole bunch of knobs so we can change the rule set and even, you know, procedurally generate the map so the world is different on a world-by-world basis. Dregs is the last one or the next one rather that's coming. Shadow will actually come beyond that. Yeah. But Dregs is the next one that's coming. It's guild versus guild. It's also the hardest core of the rule sets. Okay, in rereading the news article, it says bosses. Oh, this is a Thrall question. So this is related to the Thrall post that we made, was that 2 weeks ago? Maybe three? That Brandon did?
Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks ago.
Great job on that, Brandon. Very cool write-up. It says that the Thrall bosses have a 100% chance to drop the correct major discipline matching the name of the boss. That implies that minions have a lower percentage chance of dropping a major. Is that correct? What will minions drop?
So, the minions are in there for flavor.
Yep.
So we don't just want to have a single NPC by himself because it just didn't lead to interesting fights. Okay. So generally he's got a couple dudes with him nearby. They are Thralls as well.
Yep.
And Thralls drop their loot as dubers.
Yep.
The minions drop what's called soul essences, which is part of the crafting components for the disciplines. It's also used in the upgrade mechanic for disciplines to upgrade the rarity of the discipline.
Yeah, so the answer is actually the miners are much more predictable also where they spawn, right?
Miners come from war tribes, so they have nothing to do with
Thralls.
No,
sorry, no, I meant the minions.
Okay, the minions.
The minions. Minor Thralls.
We have so much verbiage.
Yeah, the minion Thralls. So minions are much more predictable and you can find them easier,
yes.
Right? So part of what we were trying to do here was I didn't want, if we're going to have monsters that drop something rare that people really want, I really don't want that to be a grinding experience where I'm just sitting in the same spot camping them until I get the rare drop. That sucks. So instead we flipped it, and instead of the drop being rare, the spawn is rare, and the spawn happens out in the PvP areas, because what we're trying to do is take all these activities and funnel them back out into the PvP worlds so that it becomes more of an activity that is conflict, right? It's player conflict. That's much more interesting. So the answer is no, they don't. They don't. The minions don't drop that stuff because the minions are more predictable. You know where you can go to find them. If you want to actually go and just fight minions, you can. If you're looking for a particular boss, that boss spawns only at night. It will despawn in the morning when the sun rises, the Thralls disappear, and it'll spawn randomly out in the world. So you got to get your ass out there and look for it. And that means that you're actually putting yourself at risk because other players are out there looking for it and looking for you.
Correct.
So that's how that design works.
Because you can't both get the loot. It kind of bleeds into the next question.
The next question actually I just answered, which is, does that mean that the Poisoner Thrall will spawn in the same place every time? Is that accurate? No, with the boss Thralls they don't. Correct.
Correct. There are multiple spots they could spawn
across the world. And they randomly spawn, randomized time and randomized locations.
Correct. Well, the time being sometime at night.
Yes, the randomized time, but only at night.
You at least have a clue.
Yep.
So Yanni wants to know, since we're talking about these Thrall things,
okay.
If we kill the mob, will it despawn on daylight like Ancients did, or while we're killing it?
You know,
I think at daylight, if you don't have it dead by dawn, if you don't have it dead by daylight, I think it will be
I thought at one point we had asked for them to say if it was engaged,
let it stick around.
Let it stick around until it goes back to its idle and then explode it.
I don't actually know. I was under the impression that that they did despawn, but I haven't been in that exact situation since we got the Thralls in. The Thralls look really cool too.
They look badass.
They actually look really cool. So hooray! There's another Kickstarter thing that we talked about that finally came online.
Yeah, it's more like the slow vampire death where you see the sunlight gradually coming up.
Yeah, I don't want them to blink.
Right, so it's more that I wanted to say that if you had engaged it, then you would have time to kill it.
Okay.
And if it didn't, I remember asking for that at one point.
Okay.
We make a lot of requests.
Yeah, we do. We'll have to see if that would made the list or not.
That wouldn't be considered a critical, right? That's more of actually a major, which is the level below critical.
Next one is a question about racial passives.
Okay.
So shifting gears to that. So this is a question about the High Elf racial passive, Mental Fortitude.
Yes.
So since passives don't need slots anymore, is that going to stack with Weapon Finesse?
So, even though they don't need slots anymore, we have a hierarchy system that we can build into these things.
Okay.
So, if we decide that passive B is more powerful than passive A, we can just override A with B, and you won't even see that you have A anymore.
Okay.
So, in some cases, we did that. The specifically Mental Fortitude is one that makes your attacks more efficient. There's a more powerful version on the Blade Master discipline called Weapon Finesse that does in fact override the effects.
Okay, so it doesn't stack, it does override though.
It does override.
So it's still a choice, but it's not as good a choice for
Correct.
them necessarily because they already kind of halfway there. But if that's what you're trying to min-max to get to, then you still might want it.
Yes.
We've got a whole bunch of Frostweaver questions.
Well, in fact, we have the Frostweaver lightning round.
Lightning is not their element. Are you sure we want to do that?
Well, I couldn't find a picture of a cold round. And
The
everyone
blizzard round. Oh, we can't use that.
Okay,
Sorry, we're not allowed
sorry.
to use that term. So, snow flurry round. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Anyway,
Go
you
for it.
want me to ask you?
Yeah, ask
Okay.
questions and I'll
All
do the lightning round answers.
Do they have a healer promotion class?
Yes.
Will there be a promotion that wears plate?
Yes.
Are they a pet-based class?
No.
Do they have pets at all?
No.
Will they be able to influence battle through the creation of tangible objects such as ice walls, shields, and domes?
Yes.
Will they have ranged and melee DPS promotion classes?
No.
And do you have additional race options for them?
We have not.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
That is a no. This is the Archmage. This is the DPS line, which is the very top line, as is standard with most of our talent trees.
What's the state of Frostweaver?
The final effects are being hooked up right now. Pass 1 has been done.
Yep.
They are fine-tuning the hit and the weapon flashes, as we call them. And then we've got hit effects that are being polished, as well as sound is going in. So those are usually the final 2 pieces of any class. And then the next one, their final one, is a healing promotion.
Yeah, actually, so I'm going to call out one of those changes that's not going to get a lot of marketing attention, but I'm going to call it out because specifically I'd like you guys to test it, is we did a lot of work on the underlying power system over the course of the last 6 months. A ton. In fact, we basically went back and did a whole bunch of code cleanup. That means really we should test every single power because every single power was touched.
Correct.
And in our game, that's what, 1,300, 15? That's a lot,
yes.
Right? It's a lot of powers. So when we get to test, one thing that would be great for you guys to do is pick a class, pick a couple disciplines, and make a run through. One that you're very familiar with, so you can actually go through and play, and you can help tell us, hey, this power is no longer working like it was that by design, or this power is not working at all, clearly not by design, or it seems like this group of powers are all not working for the same systemic reason. So the good thing is, as a result of this cleanup, it feels a lot punchier, right? It feels snappier. And of course, this also ties into the survivalary changes as well. So it should look a little better. It should feel a lot better. It should perform better on the back end. We still need to do optimization on the front end. That's one of the last things we'll get to. But overall, it should be a lot cooler. But we're definitely going to need y'all's help when it goes to test to get full coverage, because there's so many powers that have been touched that it's hard, even with our team being as big as it is now, which is sizable, right? We're about 60 people now, and we've got that external QA team. It's still just so much ground to cover. We could really use your help.
The increase in training speed, like right now, or up to this point, we've had, like ×3, ×10, whatever, for the passive skill training. So they want to know, is it going to continue to be at an accelerated rate when test is available, or are we going to, this is how it's going to be when the game launches?
Right now, the configs are all set to the standard 1x what it's going to be when it go to live.
And we're definitely going to wipe. I mean, that's the thing. When this thing goes live, we're definitely, so not only do we want to wipe, because it creates a great new opportunity for people that we haven't seen in a while to come back in and not feel like they're behind the curve.
Yeah.
We also have to. So many things have changed in this one that it actually is just going to be necessary. So it's nice when those two things line up. That what we want to do and what we have to do are actually the same.
Yeah.
That's a nice benefit. So that's definitely coming in this one.
And we've never actually tested it at the speed we wanted to.
Yeah.
We always let's shortcut it because we know we're going to wipe again soon and we want to get through. This time, I actually want to see what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like, are you making substantial gains in your passive training at the same time as you're making talent gains? Like, did you make it all the way to the end of your talent tree and you're still on the first box in the skill tree? Things like that would be useful for us to know now.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we go to live and into beta and beyond. So definitely we're gonna go back and we're gonna see what it feels like to be at 1x, and then we'll make adjustments based off of that.
So, 4-game question number 1. Are you going to add more information to the crafting menu? For example, the notebook of ready-made combinations and recipes. Are you going to allow customization individually? Are you going to track or save most used recipes and stuff like that? What are you going to do with that UI?
So long term, we would love to add a favorite system.
Yep.
So if I make a recipe all the time, excuse me, I would just be able to flag it, put a little star next to it, and when I open my book, I'd be able to hit favorites, and it would list those recipes.
Yeah.
That is the goal. We've wanted to do that for a long time. It's just in 5.1.10 we didn't have time to do the entirety of the craft.
Now, what we did have time to do, though, which is way better, is the previous version just had basically like, here's all the recipes in the game. Good luck.
Right.
There's a sort, but you got to know the name, and so it was kind of a mess. So the new one, we do finally at least have smart sorting, right?
Right.
So if I have a thing in my inventory, or I have a certain entitlement on my account, we can now offer up recipes that are otherwise hidden.
Correct.
For example, if you had a Kickstarter package that had the arcane weapons set, and those were a series of recipes, I actually think they're going to be skins, but if they were a series of recipes, you could say, hey, this player has access to these recipes, so let's show it when they walk up to the blacksmithing table. Otherwise, don't.
Correct.
Right? The tax-free parcels.
The tax-free parcels
are a great example.
Yeah,
of that.
if it detects that you have a backer parcel, which is what I'm calling the ones that come from the Kickstarter.
As opposed to the ones you make in game.
Right, or the store.
Yep.
They all get the backer. They're epic quality. They look different. They say backer parcel. If you have one of those, you're going to see recipes when you open your book to combine those ones into different recipes.
Now, again, there aren't very many of those, and the ones that we do have are EK only, EK being your personal kingdom only, right? We don't let any of that stuff spill over. And for the most part, the parcels are a little weird, but most everything that you're going to get there is cosmetics, right? Everything, even looking back at Kickstarter, the only things that we actually gave out were things for your personal kingdom or your house.
Dino Rage was asking, because, and other people have asked too, I know that Marth often will ask about EK stuff. They haven't really gotten any love in a while.
They haven't, and I hate to say in this new version that's coming, they still don't. So at the end of the day, we've only got so much resources, and we made the call internally that the most important loop for us, the most important game loop, was the PvP Throne War game loop, right? So we put all of our wood behind that arrow in this milestone. We do have things that we need to do to go back to the EKs and get them basically to turn over as part of the economy loop between now and launch. I know that's coming. One of the biggest of those just being how do we handle uptime. Right now we are very aggressive in shutting the servers down when people log out, and that's because they cost us actual money. Like right now running those servers cost us money, and we're not a live game, so that's money that otherwise we could be using to make the game better.
Right.
So that's why we've been so aggressive. So I do know we need to get back to EKs. It is definitely on my plan for launch. I'm not going to get all of the things that I want, but we will get all the things that we said we were going to get done by Kickstarter. So we'll get there. Okay, the next question. Right now, there's not a real winner at the end of the PV battles in the terms of spoils of war. Because we don't have a reward system.
Nope.
That is absolutely true. Reward system is one of those remaining things that we haven't gotten to yet. I will say that I'm really, really happy with the design for it because we're going to get to leverage a lot of the tech that we just came up with for the strategy game. That, what I just said, will make no sense to you guys until you see it.
Right.
But you're going to see it pretty soon here because it's about to go to test. So let's come back to this question and talk more about the reward system design after they've seen that, because then I can explain it in terms of a system they will have already played and know.
Okay.
But yes, we do have a full, very, very robust design for how we give rewards, how we track rewards, what gives you rewards, how you can redeem those rewards, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll make that the subject of a future Q&A. Random events. Are you going to add random events to the map? So something unexpected could happen, discover a very valuable resource or item, even in the areas they've already been to. You're already seeing this stuff, actually, right?
Yes.
Caravans and thralls and a number of these systems, randomized chest, those things were never really in before in a way that we could actually make them act like events.
Well, they were because they were on fixed spawners. So
Yep,
a lot of it comes like, one of the things you got to build, MMO 100 here, is day one is spawners.
Yeah.
So spawners is basically how you control the content of your world. And by having spawners that can spawn different things, then you can create randomized content.
Yes, for sure.
Like treasure chests that go away after
right,
you
so
loot
we
it.
had this problem, right? We didn't have the ability to randomize a spawner, so we put a hidden chest out in the world, right? You're just walking along, and you're like, oh, here's a chest hidden behind this rock. In the previous version, you could then just sit there all day.
That chest
waiting
wouldn't
for
go
it
away.
to respawn and
because it wasn't,
from it.
the spawner could only produce one thing, and that was it.
And then it had a timer till it
Right.
did that thing again. So now we actually have variability in that to where we can say, spawn it, once somebody finds it and collects it, despawn it, and wait some period of time,
Right.
and then randomly spawn it somewhere else.
Even better is the spawners can listen to the adjectives in the world.
That's true too.
And the adjective is, we've explained this before in the past, but generally it's just a word that we put on things like little tags. Like
yeah, it's a
Post-it
tag.
notes.
It's a world tag that says, "Hey, world, you are now in winter," and all the things in the world, like these spawners, can go, "Oh, hey, it's
wintertime."
winter." Or, for example, the Thrall Spawners can say,
It's nighttime.
It's nighttime. I should wake up and consider spawning something."
Correct.
So
So
there you go.
We just got that tech within this milestone,
Yep.
and we're starting to use it, as you see with the Thralls. In the future, we're going to expand it to everything. I mean, when you have spawners like that, we can even do a lot of the tech that we're doing in the War Tribes now, which is this could be the chieftain or the king or a minion.
Yeah.
Like when the spawner
Variable spawners.
Variable
Yeah,
spawners.
for sure.
We couldn't do that before. The king would always spawn here, and he's always going to spawn in this spot. Every 50 minutes, you can set your watch by it. Now we can totally make it random. And what it forces you as a player to do is instead of just sitting in one spot camping it, it makes you move around a little bit.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
explore the world, right? So he may not be there, but you may know where else he could spawn,
Yeah.
so you may go check that out, right? You create loops of where you go looking for things, which means you're moving through the world, you're doing something, you're not sitting in one place.
Right.
Feeling like, oh my God.
We're getting you out into the world where
So
it's
Colster has a
spawners.
related question.
Sure.
And I wondered about this myself. What happens if someone half loots a chest? Will it respawn?
Yes. So the chests will suicide themselves, basically.
Yep.
If
I
anybody,
remember that. We talked about that.
Yeah, because we didn't want people opening chests and being like, "Oh, it's junk. I'm not going to do it." If anybody opens it and looks at it and messes with it, it's going to start a countdown timer. It's going to explode, and it will go back into the respawn cycle. There's even things like, "Hey, I want to spawn a unique vendor that rarely ever spawns."
That would be cool.
Right,
Yeah.
he just listens for some specific adjective to get placed on the world. He spawns for an hour and then is gone.
Yeah, we do have weather events in now too, actually. That's another one,
Yes.
right? And that's another randomized event. I don't think we have a tie yet where a weather event, like, hey, it's raining, add a tag of raining. Do we have
No,
that yet?
we don't have that
Okay,
yet.
but that now that we have those systems,
Correct.
that's a relatively minor ask, but we
Right.
could do that. It could be, hey, this particular vendor only spawns when it's sunshine, outside, as opposed to when it's raining. So
I mean, it's a great example for people who are about to get into cities. Is that's how the guard spawners work.
yeah.
Right. When you build this building, it puts a tag on the parcel, and all of a sudden, these spawners for cleric guards turn on, for
Right.
example.
And
right?
that is now in city building a choice you have to make. You cannot have all the things.
yes,
So you
there's
have to
all
make
kinds of
choices.
guards, and you get to pick
Let's
which ones.
clarify that when you said that things will suicide, it doesn't mean that they will literally explode and kill anybody in the vicinity.
Oh no, the chest doesn't do
They
that.
don't, but the
now that you
caravan
mention
pigs
it.
do blow up. They don't yet hurt other people, but I definitely want to actually make them explode and leave like little chunks of meat
Yes.
and ribs. So, because I think that's hilarious. The
I
caravan
agree.
pigs are on an exploding timer. And that was done basically so that we don't have trolls taking caravan pigs, dragging them off somewhere, leaving them,
Right.
and as a result, all the pigs are chewed up, right? I wanted to put there's some pep to the step of the pig. You actually got to get it to the place it's got to go quickly. Otherwise, that just added another element.
Right. We don't want you
To the caravan
lollygagging.
game.
What bonuses besides playing together as a team or union do players gain by joining a guild? For example, machines for crafting in guild territories, guild buffs, etc.
Okay, so it's not really for joining a guild, but it's kind of indirectly for joining a guild, right?
Mm-hmm.
By joining a guild, you're going to have a much easier time participating in the siege game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we do in Dregs have some kind of default guilds that people can dump into, right? That way, because otherwise you'd have no way to recruit new people in if they couldn't
Correct.
come in without having a guild already. So we have some defaults, but realistically speaking, I think that the default guilds are not going to be as competitive as the hardcore guilds who are really, really well organized. Now, I have heard an opinion that says, no, the default guilds will make up for it in numbers and they'll be more competitive than you think. We'll see. I don't think so.
Show me.
But anyway, because you now have guilds going into the game, you now have territory and strongholds that can be claimed by those guilds and a host of buildings that can be built in those strongholds. And those buildings all offer you different things. To build those buildings, you actually have to caravan stuff back. So you have to bring stuff back and choose what building you want to have. And then that gives you a ton of benefits. And that's anything from vendors to crafting to guards to hanging effects that basically magical effects that help everybody in the zone. There's the sentinels in there now that you can use that are sort of like the Shadowbane Spires. There is so much coming in this area. So anyway, you guys will see that soon.
Those buffs are even persistent.
Yeah, for sure. And for buffs now persist. That's something we didn't have in previous milestones either.
Nope.
If I put a beneficial buff on you and you hit a Rune Gate, it went away.
Correct, or you logged out.
Or I poisoned you and you run through a Rune Gate, it would go away. Or you could log out to clear it.
Yep.
That's also fixed in this one.
So,
oh God, there's so much stuff coming. It's insane.
We even added the buffs from the buildings. They will persist through death.
Wow.
So so you don't have to bounce back to the city every single time
cool.
you die.
That's cool.
For that 2 hours that you have that buff, you get to keep it for the entirety of the time.
Okay, so Sophia Scarlett wants to know if there are plans to implement a sabotage mechanic for sieges, like to damage the walls before the timer starts.
The walls are, in fact, invulnerable before the siege timer starts.
And so that's one of those ideas where my initial thought is, oh, that sounds kind of cool, but immediately my brain goes to, all right, so now the preferred strategy is to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning and get an army of people to sabotage your walls, and I basically circumvented the entire point of the Tree of Life. So no, but my suspicion is what we will see in this next version is a shift from, before this we had people that were doing night capping. They would run around basically and grab the outpost at night. I think what we're going to see now is a shift to night caravanning, where people actually at off hours are going and doing caravan runs to build up their city. To me, that's not nearly as bad because it's an active activity, not a passive activity. And it's going to be much easier for us to tweak. If we want to, for example, turn down the amount of caravan resources that spawn in the off hours, we have the ability to do that. So that's really cool. So I answered a different question. The first question was, hey, here's a cool idea of something we do after hours, can we do it? And unfortunately, and I'll think about it. If I can think of a good way to make it work, I'll consider it. But at first glance, I don't have one. So instead, the question I answered is, will there be cool things for me to do off hours that will drive player conflict? And the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Alfan asks if resource ranks have been corrected in 5.11.
Yeah, we did. So resource, yes, a couple things are different on resources. First of all, monsters have been moved to a level system instead of a rank system.
Correct.
They've been separated out on a parcel so that we don't have to say, well, if you want rank 7 monsters, which are now level 21, then you also have to have rank 7 harvestables, which we didn't actually want to put into God's Reach.
Right.
So we've separated those things out now so that we do have it separate. So the best resources really now are only found in Dregs and the other PvP worlds, but higher level monsters can be found in God's Reach to allow players to level up their characters to get to that point of minimum viable power to be able to go and participate.
You will see the level
ranks.
30 NPCs in God's Reach, and I think the resource camps out at rank 4.
Yeah, I think last I heard it was close to that, was like 25th level in God's Reach, but you could then go to Infected to get the last 5 levels of monsters.
I'd have to look at the chart.
So it was actually, there was a slight bridge to try and entice people into Infected, so that people who are already ready to go to Dregs at 25th, they're just going to jump there and they'll do their final leveling in Dregs. People who don't really quite know what they're getting into can get their feet wet in PvP by jumping to Infected, get those last couple levels, and then graduate.
Infected,
I think that's where we left it.
They also have like
rank
5 and 6, I think, in Infected as well.
Yeah. So Infected was kind of made as an in-between point. The resource is not as good, but it's also not as dangerous.
Right.
So.
Okay, JD Please asks if Alchemy will have more things to craft in 5.11 to fill out its profession.
So Alchemy didn't get the full pass on its profession in 5.1.10.
In fact, the disciplines in general still need a pass, I think.
Well, disciplines need a pass. This is a crafting profession.
Oh, crafting. I made the jump to crafting disciplines.
Yeah,
no. The recipes to the
this is
right?
Alchemy primarily, their stats focus towards the Philosopher's Stone, which is used for necromancy. There really isn't a lot of potions. We're a little worried about putting things like combat potions, healing potions in.
A little bit, especially now that we actually have a consumables bar, right? That's something that we didn't have before, is we have the ability to load things out on your bar.
And we actually got, in this update, we got the ability to put things on a similar cooldown. So, for example, you have 4 different kinds of bandages. If you use one of them, all 4 of them in your inventory go on different cooldowns, or on the same cooldown. Yeah. It's basically a cooldown group for bandages. We can put one in for combat potions, but there's an underlying tech issue here where crafted things generally have unique stats on them. For example, you get an attack power of 28 on something.
Right.
The way potions...
A lot of unique stats, in fact, right?
Right. But that's because you equip it and it transfers those stats to the player. A potion, you drink it and it fires off a power. The power has no knowledge of the stats coming from the thing that invoked it.
Right, okay.
So there's basically there's an an item and a power, and there's a linkage in between the two, and it doesn't transfer data across.
And
there.
the challenge that we have, I know this is all inside baseball, and you guys,
Right.
And some of you actually love this stuff, and some of you are like, whatever. So we'll, just for a moment, we'll engage with the people who love it. So the challenge is, if we actually wanted to carry all of that stuff over, sometimes we need to carry more data from the original crafter, and we'd have to impress that onto the item to say, okay, well, how good was the original crafter who made this item?
Yeah,
or we'd have to derive stats and put those on the item. So it's not that we can't do it. Well, technically, right now, it's exactly that we can't do it.
But otherwise, I would be doing
as
it.
a team, not you, but as a team, it's not that we can't do it. It's
Right.
just that we haven't gotten to it yet. So I would like to look at Alchemy, just like I look at a lot of these things, and go back and say, okay, what can we do to add a little bit more to this role or
Yeah,
profession?
because to me, all of our professions, like the Crowfall crafting system, produces very unique items. Every time you craft something, it has completely different stats than
Which is
something
cool.
else, right? Even if it's by a fractional amount, you rarely, if ever, make an identical thing out of the same object.
Right.
Even, right? Alchemy
Which is
doesn't.
like Galaxies, actually.
It's very much like
right?
Star Wars Galaxy. So everything is unique, right? However, the Alchemy doesn't do that because it creates basically a link to a power.
Yeah.
And the powers have to be a template, which again, I would love it where you made 45 health healing potions and I made 85 health healing potions.
Yeah.
Right? Clearly, I'm the better potion maker. Right now, I can't do that. So I want to get to the point where we can do that, and then I'll make a full pass on Alchemy.
Guild alliances in 5.11 for dregs.
So right now you're going to have to do that stuff largely by hand. We do have a plan in it, but it didn't make it into the cut. There are ways that you can work around this using like a overall guild structure and things like that. I'll get to it. We just didn't get it in this one, and frankly, I wanted to play this version first because that will impact the alliances and fealty GDD. So I actually spent another pass last night. I actually made another
I read it
pass
last night
through that GDD. So it has not fallen off of our list, and it's not out of our mind. It's just something that didn't quite make the cut. When I was looking through the list, I actually looked for things that I thought, what is like, I've got to cut 5 things of the 500. What are the things that I think are likely to be wasted effort because I will learn in doing this milestone things that will influence that?
Yep.
I mean, we have a whole strategy game coming online. So big questions like if one guild joins another guild and they both had individual strongholds generating points, what do I do with those points?
Yes.
Do the points go to the new one? Do they stay with the old one? If they do go to the new one, what if I later want to betray? Does that mean I have to remember the old one? Does the new one collect points on their own that roll up to the old one? There's a whole bunch of stuff that's just weird. And I didn't find one design that was like, I am so certain that this is the right one, that we should go with it. Now that we're in and we're starting to play it, I've got a much better idea for that. Let's play it some. I do still want to get it in. It's something that we're planning on doing. I think it's something that's important as a balancing mechanic to deal with large guilds. But I have other balancing mechanics as well for that, right? A number of the strategy cards that are coming. Another strategy game rules are actually geared up for smaller guilds. So let's get in. Hang with me, let's play it, and then we'll come back and reapproach.
Several people in the chat ask about global banking and if it's gone.
It is gone. There are solutions, though, in-game that you can take to give you more banking options, but you have to build them. It is now one of the hard choices that you have to make for the strategy game.
Yeah, I was actually really happy with that power, too. It's called mobile banking.
Yeah.
It summons a Stoneborn banking chest, and if you build the correct building to get that power...
And rank it to max.
And rank it up, then you have that option.
Right,
So
but you're giving up something else equally cool to do it. So,
but the standard B button to open your vault no longer exists.
Right.
In the new fancy UI options on the side of the screen, it's no longer there.
And we've been making a pass through all of the outposts, which previously were just like, here's a campfire, claim it, right? We've been making a pass and going through and changing those POIs to give them purpose.
Yep.
Guard towers now have a purpose. Banking outposts now have a purpose.
There's a banking outpost.
God statue outposts now have a purpose. So there's a number of things that are out there in the world that you find that it's not just a thing that I claim for points. It's a thing that I claim because it has this other game reason for me to claim it.
Proteo MB says, with the removal of the survival tray, will we continually get weapon and armor deterioration?
What did you do with that?
So
is it all the time now, or is it still just when you're in combat?
Just when you're in combat.
Okay.
So if you're out of combat, you don't suffer any type of equipment decay. When you die, you suffer equipment decay, and when you are in combat, you suffer equipment decay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty identical to how it used to work.
Yeah, there's a few of these areas that I think are going to be, we're going to have to play and see. This is one that feels that way to me, is I think that overall, no question, the survival tray change, to me, feels way better. And I don't think I've heard anybody who's played it actually come out hard against it. You know, everybody has generally been at least neutral, if not to really positive. But there are a few things like that I'm like, all right, that might require a little bit of retoying, like reswizzling. Well, let's get you guys in and you can try it, and then we'll all talk about it.
Yeah, and I've heard various degrees of how long equipment lasts.
Yeah.
Right? Some people are like, oh my god, my equipment never decays. And some people are like, oh my god, my equipment just evaporates.
And that may actually have to do with how much you die, more than it does how often you're in combat.
So yeah, we definitely need a way to track that so we can kind of figure out what is actually the sweet spot there.
Yes, we're going to go to test first, and the first thing that'll come up on test is test God's Reach. There is so much in this build that just getting that in front of you, testing all the powers, testing Frostweaver, testing Survival Tray, testing the new UIs, testing all the things, that alone is going to keep you guys fed for a bit.
Starting to train your passive skills.
And we need to get you guys into that first, because that's going to have a whole host of the powers alone is going to result in a host of bugs and feedback and polish.
Right.
And then I'd like a chance to try and incorporate some of that. Then we'll get dregs out. Then we'll actually get it, and we're also going to do uber short campaigns just to get testing. I think we talked about doing 4-day campaigns, right? Which doesn't make any sense, I don't think, in the main game, but we'll try it out here. And that 4 days is because now that we have seasons in and you're cosmetically can tell the difference, it's going to be day of spring, day of summer, day of fall, day of winter, game over, you know? But that'll at least get us in and it'll get us going. Now, obviously, you won't have enough time to really build all the things that you need to build in 4 days, but that'll come in first.
Right.
And then we'll increment that up as we get our legs under us to where we're running month-long
And it also
campaigns
won't leave us crippled. Like if the campaign had something terrible in spring and we fixed it by fall, in the next campaign, which comes up in 3 days from there.
Yeah, for sure. The strategy game also is tied directly to campaigns now.
Yeah.
Right, like the rules of the strategy game change in the based on the seasons. So I wanted to get as quick an iteration on that. I wanted to get as many draws out of the card deck as possible on that, as quickly as possible. And if we were running those things like at a 3 weeks each or something like that, then I wouldn't get enough iteration on testing that system.
Yeah, so after we get past the first couple and make sure everything's good,
then we'll get,
we'll start increasing the time.
So anything else, or is that it for this time?
I think that's it. Make sure to watch us on the YouTubes.
Yeah, please do.
The Twitters.
And follow us on the Twitters and the Facebooks and all the interwebs. Please get us those hashtag war stories, because that's really cool. We love to support our streamers. I mean, they're spending their time on our game when it's not done being baked and when we don't have a giant audience. That's really cool. So we want to do anything we can to love on them as well.
And my husband wants to know why 2 of them look like Blair. He's like, what is up with that? There's 2 streamers that look like Blair.
All streamers eventually
know.
evolve. It's like a Pokemon evolution thing. Is eventually they evolve into Blair. Yeah. Yep. So, all right. I think that's probably it for this time then. Thanks, 4Game, for sending your questions. That's very cool.
Yep.
Thanks, guys, for checking in and watching. Thanks for being patient. God, I want this build out as bad as you do, I promise. It's a whole new game, guys, so I'm excited to get it in front of you.
And we'll see you on test.
All right. See you very, very soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.